Greetings to all of you in Lincoln, Nebraska from Brunswick, Maine. My apologies for being with you all only in voice and spirit and not in body. Many thanks to my fellow panelists for their understanding, and especially to Willie for his flexibility and patience. It is frustrating to miss seeing so many old friends and to miss out on meeting new ones. Although I'm not there to respond to Q&A, please do not hesitate to get in touch with me via email about any aspect of this presentation. I will touch only briefly on our department's decision to start our beginning Greek sequence in the spring. I'm happy to elaborate further via email or phone conversation, but at this point, it is enough to say that we began this practice in the hopes of increasing enrollment. While Greek enrollments did improve for 1 or 2 years, they have now slid back to levels consistent with the earlier practice of a fall start. We thought the spring start would be helpful because it would give us a chance to reach out to first years as we got to know them in class and allow us to build both relationships with prospective Greek students and also to spend time making the case for the study of Greek during our fall course offerings. Unfortunately, Bowdoin College does not have a language requirement. Moreover, the curricular culture here among students is very much opposed to sequential commitment. They love to sample a wide array of classes, but committing to the same type of course semester after semester is not a popular option. So our Greek, and now indeed our Latin, enrollments are not at all helped by these factors. It may be that our spring start does indeed help, but I'm not confident enough based upon our data to make a strong case for that assertion. Today I'm going to spend my time talking about an endeavor that we do hope does help attract Greek students, help retain them, and at the same time provides a benefit to Greek teachers and students well beyond the borders of Maine. This is our design and build of an iOS app we have called Diakritikos. This is an app that is written in the Swift programming language, and thus will be usable on all iOS devices, as well as online through any web browser. Its purpose is to provide students with an easily accessible platform for the practice and testing of Greek accentuation. We also hope to add features to help practice and test vocabulary, syntax, and grammar, but as of now, those features are still on the drawing board. This slideshow will consist of a series of screenshots showing the various features we have built into the app and showing the basic user interface. Again, I want to stress that this will be available for use in any web browser with no loss of usability or features. If there are any questions about coding or other under-the-hood inquiries, please do not hesitate to get in touch. But for the sake of time here, I will focus on the user interface. Selecting the app on the main menu of items displayed on one's iOS device leads one to the app's base-level home screen. This home screen presents an icon at the bottom of the screen, a simple tempo motif, which when pressed will always return the user to this home screen. This home screen presents 3 basic doorways through which the user can first walk. Users who are already familiar with the app can thus immediately begin playing, that is, practicing the various modes of accentuation and syllabification exercises. Most initial users will naturally press on the introduction button. This leads to more options and also reveals another consistent feature, the back arrow in the bottom left corner paired with the return home temple icon. Pressing on that arrow will always lead you back to the screen prior. On this screen you have 3 options. We will explore only one. The register option allows users to register their app so that they can share scores and progress with the others, and also compare their scores and progress with the scores and progress of other users. The Mechanics button leads to a detailed explanation and demonstration of how the app's user interface works. So let's open the Review Rules option. This leads to another set of buttons, past which will be detailed information about how to properly divide Greek words and phrases into syllables for the purpose of accentuation, how to determine syllable length, how to determine syllable weight, both strictly for accentuation and not for scansion, and finally, a detailed explanation of the various rules and sets of exceptions for determining proper accentuation. For the sake of time, I will assume that this audience is familiar with those various bits of information. So returning to the home screen, let's walk through the Options button and explore these, as they offer more information regarding the app itself. Here one is presented with 2 duplicated options from the introduction screen, Review Rules and Register. We decided to repeat these here because students found it handy to be reminded of these options. For the remainder of this presentation, I will concentrate on the options laid out under Select Texts, Select Game Type, and Scoring. And of course, I will walk you through the actual accentuation exercises. So first, let's choose Select Texts. Here we can choose either textbooks or primary texts. First, let's choose textbooks. This presents us with a list of current Greek textbooks. This list is not complete, but we are working on adding to it. You can select as many or as few textbooks as you wish. The idea was to give users an option to focus on words contained only in the textbook by which they are currently learning the language. But there is nothing stopping somebody from choosing to use words contained in all textbooks. Here you can see that I've opted to use words drawn from Shelmerdine, Athanasda, and Major and Laffey. Once selected, the app will retain these selections until the user changes them. So let's return back by pressing the return arrow in the bottom left corner. This moves us back to the previous screen, from which we can now press on the primary text button. Here we see a similar format, but instead of textbooks, we are given the option to draw words and phrases from various primary texts. Here we have a few more options than from the textbooks, as one can see by pushing the More button. While the list is not extensive, we hope to gradually add to it. For now, between the textbook options and the primary text options, there are more than enough distinct words and phrases to keep even the most dedicated student continually busy. So let's return home by pushing on the temple icon. Having explored both the introduction and the options button, shall we play a game? Here one can play games dedicated to practicing the formation of syllables and identifying the length and weight of syllables, as well as games dedicated to practicing accentuation. Let's go to syllables first. Before beginning the game proper, we are offered options for play. We can play with single words only, two-word phrases only, multi-word sentences only, or select any combination of the three. I have chosen to play using all three options at once. The thinking in offering these options is that beginning students can thus scaffold their practice so as to get some confidence in mastering single-word puzzles before being forced to contend with the more complex problems. While we have finished coding the games involving syllabification and syllable length, we have not yet finished the games on syllable weight. So let's turn around and go back by pushing the return arrow. And now, let's instead jump into the games devoted to accentuation proper. As with the syllable games, one is presented with selecting various options about the level of puzzles one is about to face. Here, again, I selected all three options. The first puzzle, drawn at random from the textbooks and primary text that you saw selected before, is for me to properly identify the accented word anthropou, according to the traditional terminology. In order to do so, I simply slide the virtual button, which is located to the right of the appropriate term, moving the button from its position on the left side of its nesting to its position on the right. This then changes the color of its nesting from parchment to green, denoting that I've selected the term paroxytone. Satisfied that this is the correct choice, I then touch the Submit button. And, praise Zeus, I am correct. With my confidence building, I elect to continue by pressing the Next button at the bottom of the screen. I am faced again with a terminology puzzle, this time with the word sotera. Seeing that circumflex, I am very excited because I know it is not an oxytone, nor a paroxytone. It must be a persipalmenon. Sliding the button to the right, persipalmenon is now properly highlighted. Without hesitation, I hit Submit. Oi moitelas! My newly found confidence is destroyed. The program, even while it notifies me that I have made a poor life decision, also offers me the opportunity to try again. Crestfallen, but at the same time armed with the impatience of youth, I decide to push on, pushing Next. And here I am presented with an opportunity to properly accent an unaccented word. Recall the mechanics option back at the beginning. It is there that I have been instructed on how to properly manipulate the various elements in this exercise. Simply put, all I need to do is touch any one of the three accents and touch any of the various letters in the word. So let's touch both the circumflex and the final upsilon. The app then highlights both of these selections in green. I now have to simply place my finger onto the accent and then drag the accent onto the letter to which I think it belongs, in this case the final upsilon. Once I've done that, I push the Finished button. This then shows me what the word looks like accented in the way I've chosen. In this case, it highlights not only the upsilon, but also the omicron next to it because they form a diphthong. Judging that this is correct, I touch the Submit button. Thankfully, this time I am correct. Choosing to move on, I touch the Next button. Once more, I am given a single unaccented word. Recalling that omegas are by nature long, and thinking that a long omega deserves a circumflex, I choose to highlight both. I then drag the circumflex down to the omega and hit the finished button. The accented word is then presented to me. Aikmalotos. That sounds excellent. Time to hit submit. Oi moitalas! Tragedy is struck again. Nonetheless, heedless of the danger ahead, I push on without regrets. And here I'm given not one word, but two. Excellent. Again, I touch the accent and letters I wish to accent in order to highlight them. I then drag each accent to its respective letter and hit finished. The app now presents me with the two words, each accented according to my desires. Satisfied with the result, I hit submit. Kala! Success! Emboldened, I press on. Again, I am presented with two words. One is a verb, and I vaguely remember something that my professor said about verbs and accents, but I don't know. I think I need to review those rules again, but let's go with the gut and see what happens. I see a single-syllable word with a diphthong. Yeah, so that sucker needs a circumflex. And let's put an acute accent on the penultimate syllable on that verb, shall we? Pethetai moi. Looks good. Oofta. I really need to go back and review those rules, but let's see if my luck can change here, because it would be nice to end on a winning hand. Oh, hello. Not one, not two, but a 5-word sentence. Okay, I can do this. So, selecting accents and dragging them onto their various letters. In the case of multiple words, the app automatically accents the words chosen as I go. If I wish to make changes, I simply have to double tap the letter in order to clear it of its accent, or to hit the back arrow in order to clear all. But here, I select the final acute and drag it onto the iota in Sophion and hit finished. I am then presented with a completely accented, and I hope correctly accented, short sentence. With fingers crossed, I hit submit. So here I can see that I've gotten some of these correct and some incorrect. As it is not completely correct, the app marks it as incorrect and offers me the opportunity to go back and correct my work. Wanting to end on a high note, I elect to do so. Now the words that either did not need accented in the first place or that I had properly accented on my first try are marked in green. The words still needing accents are left in black, and I should choose and drag the accents as before. Recognizing that the acute will accompany the smooth breathing on the epsilon at the beginning of the verb echusi, I drag it there. Looks good. Time to submit. Dagnummit! In my excitement at figuring out echusi, I had neglected to accent poietai at all. So, in order to fix this, I elect to retry. Again, I see that the program has highlighted in green my previously correct work and left me only poietai to deal with. Recognizing that the final iota in poietai requires here a grave accent, I drag it over, and it presented with all of the proper selections. I hit submit again, and my persistence has paid off. This, in a nutshell, is what we think the strength of this application is. It simply provides an opportunity for repeated engagement with Greek words and phrases. It rewards careful review ahead of time, but fundamentally, it rewards persistence. One of the challenges of Greek instruction, we have found, is carving out class time for repeated and sustained practice. The application provides a structured space for just that, at least for accentuation, and we hope in the future for other Greek language puzzles and games. One of the ways that the app incentivizes practice is that it can track the user's performance over time, and will offer various ways by which the user can present that performance to their friends, peers, and instructors. My students insisted on presenting the app as a game because, they argued, doing so resets the student's approach to practicing. It has proven to be a fun thing on its own, and at the same time sparks a bit of competitive spirit in its users. And with this in mind, I will conclude by touching on its scoring functions. So from here we touch the Temple Home icon. Returning to the home screen, we now touch the Options button. And on that screen, we select the Scoring button. Here we are presented with a list of scoring options. We can view how we've done since the very first time we started playing on the app. We can view our performance over the last 365 days, over the last 30 days, over the last 24 hours, or we can customize our scoring time frame however we wish. So, for example, if an instructor would like to see how a student has progressed over the past 2 weeks, the student can easily customize that scoring time frame in order to present just that data. Here, however, let's touch the Year button. Once again, we are presented with a familiar set of options. We can see how we've done in all possible games or any combination. For this purpose, we will look only at our score in accentuation games. I had previously set this up to show the aggregate score of all word combination options, but one can toggle these back and forth as one wishes. Keeping them selected here, we move on by pushing Select. And on this screen, we can see exactly how we've performed in these accentuation categories over the previous 365 days. The score is assessed by the total number of attempted accents, not only by word combinations. So, recalling our last series of accent attempts on that short sentence, I was scored on each discrete accent choice. In that case, 4 different accents on each of my multiple attempts. But here the score is broken down according to the types of puzzles attempted, as well as the total aggregate scores across all types. Given the variables involved with enclitics and whatnot, it is normal for users to have a slightly lower average on multi-word sentences than on single-word puzzles. And finally, the user can see how they are doing in relation to other users by viewing their rankings. The user can set the groups in relation to which they wish to compare their scores. Here we have compared the percentage scores against the students enrolled in a particular course, against all of the users currently at Bowdoin, against a defined set of friends, and against the total number of users of the app worldwide. Should you wish to delve a bit deeper, then tapping on the See More Details button leads you here. Again, a familiar interface, but this time with the option of seeing how one is doing in an ordinal sense with respect to those same categories. Here we have selected our comparison group to see where we stand with respect to all users. This selection allows the user to see other registered users ranked 5 places above and 5 places below. So, the user of this phone, registered as George Grote, stands just below Edward Frankel and just above Jane Harrison. Should George wish to see which users stand at the top of the rankings, then that option exists. It is possible to disable rankings, should one wish. Rankings appeal to most students, but not all. What matters is what incentives work for which students. Some will respond to knowing that the instructor will be able to check their progress. Some will respond to a friendly competition with their friends in class or across campus. Others become obsessed with how they are doing in relation to students taking Greek at all other institutions. To reiterate, the chief aim of this application is to provide a platform for the constant and consistent practice of accents. The program itself cannot teach students how to do this. That remains the preserve of the faculty member in charge, or in the case of self-guided learners, of the literature to which the student turns. The application does include reference to a number of different methods of learning, however, so users will have access to a broader array of methodologies than they would otherwise. What is most important, in our eyes, is that the app gives students a handy, and for some an ever-present, resource for practice and review. This practice and review can happen when they have a few spare minutes, or it can happen when they wish to dedicate a large chunk of time. So, in conclusion, I would simply note that Bowdoin students, financed by internal and external grants, as well as departmental work-study funds, have done all of the data entry, most of the coding, and practically all of the conceptualization, debugging, and beta testing. The design of the application has spanned 2 different cohorts of beginning and intermediate students, and it is they who have come up with the internal architecture and the various presentations of the user interface. While it has not yet been released into the wild, so to speak, we do expect eventually to make it available to all. Our hope is to have it accepted for download through Apple's App Store, and for it to either be completely free or to cost no more than $2 or $3. Additionally, we think it reasonable to incorporate games that would allow students to practice reading comprehension, morphological analysis, and simple prose composition. But our intention is to first make the games involving accentuation and syllabification available to the public as soon as possible. While I am not there to answer questions directly, I urge you to get in touch with me via email, as you can see my address on the bottom of the screen here. We welcome all possible comments, suggestions, or criticisms of everything and anything you have seen today, or indeed can even imagine. Thank you again for your patience and understanding in listening to a disembodied voice. Enjoy the rest of the conference, and safe travels to all of you. Thank you very much.